We got some updates on Mitch White and Ricky Tiedemann's injury statuses, so we'll break that down on this episode of Jays Digest, as well as the Jays and Orioles. They went at it today in spring training action. It was a very entertaining game on the pitching side of things, so we'll have that and much more coming up next. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Now, we're just over a week away from opening day. I think a week tomorrow, officially, and we cannot wait for that opening series in St. Louis. It's going to be it's going to be a great season, I think. It's going to be a great, entertaining year for us on Jays Digest and for the Blue Jays as well. But we want to thank you all for the support that we've gotten throughout spring training on our pregame live streams. It's been unbelievable, and we cannot wait for March 30th.
Yeah, we're just waiting now, counting down the days. Like you said, a week from tomorrow, we will be doing a pregame show, and everyone will be amped up for the Jays finally playing games that count. But before we do get into the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 6,600. We're around 50 subs away, so it means a lot if you could do that. And let's just get into the first topic, which is some injury updates for Mitch White and Ricky Tiedemann. So this was tweeted by Arden Zwelling. It's tweeted by Arden Zwelling every day. He does major injury updates and stuff like that. And here's what they are for today. Ricky Tiedemann with his shoulder soreness will throw another bullpen today, which is very encouraging. And Mitch White with his shoulder will pitch in a minor league game, aiming to get up to 45 pitches. Club would like to get him into a major league game before the end of camp. So we'll discuss Tiedemann and Mitch White, and we'll discuss Mitch White in a bit more detail because now he's actually starting to ramp up a bit. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you have any insight there?
Well, we saw this coming with Ricky Tiedemann. We thought they would be very cautious throughout the entire year, not just in spring training. And I don't know if you remember this, Nick, but I asked you if you think Ricky Tiedemann is going to pitch more or less than 5 innings in the spring, and I believe he's at 3 right now. I said less, and I don't know what you said, but
I guess
it
more.
was around, yeah, it was around that I was expecting for Ricky Tiedemann, and I don't expect more than 100 innings for him throughout the regular season. So I just think they're being very cautious. I didn't think it was that big of an issue at the start. They're just really trying to manage his workload and ramping it up from there.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that he's throwing bullpen sessions and hasn't had a major setback or really a setback of any kind besides the initial setback with the bullpens is a very good sign. And like you said here, he's going to throw another one today, and I'm assuming he's thrown it as of now. And it's good. He's ramping up. He will probably start the season in Double-A or Triple-A. Definitely not with the major league team as I know some fans were hoping for. But either way, the fact that he's healthy is the only thing that matters right now as we start to transition into the major league season. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on him. Now, talking about Mitch White, he's obviously, the sixth man as of now in the rotation you'd expect, maybe even seventh, depending where the internal, where they view Zach Thompson. But he will pitch in a minor league game and then aiming to get up to 45 pitches. And they want to get him in a major league game before the end of camp. And they're running out of time, but they have a little bit of time. They have about, like we said, about a week left until 6 days left of spring training as it ends March 28th. But what are your thoughts on Mitch White? Do you think you're looking forward to his spring training, or do you think he even gets there?
I think he's going to be very important to the Blue Jays this season in that long relief role. And that's just another spot that's locked up in the bullpen. So I wanted to ask you, what do the Jays do in the bullpen when Mitch White returns? Because all signs are pointing towards Yusei Kikuchi being that number 5 starter, then Mitch White being the long relief guy when he finally does get in there. Trevor Richards, you figure he's going to be in the mix because he's out of options, so that leaves one spot available in the bullpen. Now, I know what I would do, and it probably wouldn't be a popular take among Toronto Blue Jays front office and Toronto Blue Jay fans, but I know what I would be doing in that situation. But I want to ask you first, what would you do to manage that those spots there?
Yeah, it's very, very tough. And like we've been talking about, this is a conversation that's been brought up. And now that Mitch White, we don't know if he's going to start the season on the IL. That was the original plan, but it's starting to look like he might not be. I think they probably keep him on the team. And if it was me, I don't know necessarily what I'd do. Maybe, drop him and then pick up someone like Nate Pearson. But I think to start the year, they just keep him in the bullpen along with Trevor Richards and leave the other guys in the minor leagues and have him as a bullpen role. But what do you think? Do you think they're going to bring him down?
All
Well, they
right,
can't
now
bring him
this is
down,
what
but
I would do. This is what I would do here. Okay, so I would look to trade Trevor Richards, and if you can't, then DFA him. DFA him because I would put Mitch White in that bullpen conversation because he has to be there. There's no one else that can provide the length that he does out of the pen, and you need a guy like that if you ever do get in one of those sticky situations in the pitching department. So I'd have him. I'd probably get rid of Trevor Richards. So that leaves you two spots, I believe. That leaves you two spots, and then those two spots are going to Zach Pop and Nate Pearson.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But again, like you said before, before saying that, the Jays, they probably keep Trevor Richards, and he's looked good in camp so far. But I would agree, it's very tough. He's looked good so far, but at the same time, he had a horrible year last year. And I want to see some of the young guys. And I guess let's get into the next topic now. Speaking of Zach Pop a little bit as well, pitched phenomenally today, which was the game. We obviously beat the Orioles today, and it was a pretty fun game. And let's just get into it, which is the pitching ramping up. Peter, what were your thoughts on today's game, today's pitching, and you maybe touch on some of the players like Zach Pop who got into the game today who are battling for that spot. Now, Zach Pop has options, so he's probably going to start the year in AAA. As much as Blue Jays fans don't want to hear that, it is most likely the case. What were your thoughts on today's game for pitching as I pop up the box score here?
Now, I want to ask you one more thing before we fully transition in today's game, Nick. And if the Jays don't want to trade or don't want to get rid of Trevor Richards, would you look to trade Adam Simber in that situation to free up one of the spots?
Yeah, I would, yeah, definitely. I think I would, but again, he pitched like
Okay.
73 innings last year, and I think that's more of a likely scenario there.
Okay, cool, cool. So now we'll touch on today's pitching situation. Jose Berrios looked good, although we got to remember that it was a very weak Baltimore Orioles lineup. So unless unless he's pitching against the Oakland A's every start, then we can't expect that level of consistency out of Jose Berrios. But what I saw today was a sign in pointing in the right direction for him. So he took a little bit off his fastball. He's usually around 94, 95, but he was around 92, 93 today. But the location was much better. And you noticed every time he did try to reach back for that little extra, he would lose a bit of control. He would hang his sinker, it would stay over the middle of the plate, belt high, and that's when they would crush it. They had multiple batted balls over 100 miles an hour, and that's when he was throwing 94, 95. So if he can take off a little bit, maybe 1, 2 miles an hour throughout the regular season and have that pinpoint accuracy that he did today, he's going to be a lot more effective. And his changeup was phenomenal. I'll let you touch on that.
Yeah, the changeup was great. I was going to mention that. I'll quickly go back to your point of velocity. I saw someone else tweet about it. Of course, we noticed it. I think it was down 1 mile per hour lower this start specifically. And like you said, very, very, much better results than he had in the past. And it's just simply because he's able to locate more. And he doesn't blow guys away anyway. He doesn't pitch in the upper 90s. So him having control along with his nasty changeup and, of course, his slurve is going to be key there. And touching on some of the other pitchers today, Tim Mayza's continued to look good all camp. Jimmy Garcia, who we touched on in the pregame show, has yet to give up a run in the World Baseball Classic Orange Spring. So good stuff out of him. Zach Pop, phenomenal. Obviously only pitched a third of an inning, but Jordan Romano looked great. And Eric Swanson, I'll let you touch on him quickly before we move on to the next topic. But Eric Swanson looked pretty good today. He looked dialed in at, I think, 95 miles per hour I was seeing out there.
Yeah, this really had the feel of a regular season game, and the pitching is starting to ramp up. The velocity is getting to where it needs to be just a week away from the season. And why I say this felt like a regular season game, first of all, the lineup was very similar to what we'll see come March 30th, aside from maybe Kevin Biggio. But you had Jimmy Garcia in the seventh inning, you had Eric Swanson in the eighth inning, and then you had Jordan Romano in the ninth inning, which figures to be your 7-8-9 combination. Obviously, Zach Pop came in there to
Get some
close
work.
out that inning because of the pitch count that Eric Swanson reached. But that's what you figure to be your 7-8-9. And Tim Meza in the sixth inning, depending on if it's left-handed heavy lineup, or Anthony Bass in the sixth inning, depending on if it's a right-handed heavy lineup. So, man, I mean, that's really good depth, and we're seeing a lot of good things. Eric Swanson, 95 plus on the fastball. We hadn't seen that all spring, and he finally broke it out today.
Yeah, it looked very, very good. The whole team, it was a group win against, of course, the inferior Orioles with their lineup with not many major leaguers. I think we counted two, maybe like one in a bit in the pregame show. But something else we'll touch on now was the hitters who, including Varsho, got his first home run today, and I'll pop that up for you now. And I've been hoping for a Varsho home run for the whole spring. He was obviously really, really cool this spring so far. Hasn't been doing great, and we touched on that in a couple videos ago, but you can peep it here. He hit it so hard that the right fielder didn't even take a step in either direction. It was absolutely crushed. And what were your thoughts on the hitters today, very quickly before we wrap up? And it was just very, very impressive for me seeing Varsho. I was happy that Varsho finally hit a home run after so many games without one.
Yeah, shout out to you for your bold prediction. You
Yeah.
stuck with him all spring long, and he finally delivered for you, Nick. He finally hit that home run. And what I've noticed out of him is that he's been trying to take a lot of pitches. He's facing a lot of pitchers that he has not seen before in his career. And that home run that he hit was on a 3-2 count. He saw 8 pitches in that at bat. And that eighth pitch was, like you saw there, it was a frozen rope to right field, and he almost took a handoff there in the crowd. So I expect him to do very well this season. Bo Bichette stayed hot, but it was a relatively quiet game for the bats. The defense looks very good though, and I want to mention this stat to you that Buck Martinez said throughout the broadcast. The regulars that we expect to play throughout the season have only committed one error, and that error came from Matt Chapman, who we expect to be a Gold Glove finalist yet again.
Yeah, which is pretty ironic that Matt Chapman was the one guy to get the air. And I guess speaking about Matt Chapman, we'll quickly wrap it up with touching on the defense very quickly. Like you said, looked very, very good throughout the entirety of spring. Bo Bichette has looked really good defensively, which who knows how much Don Mattingly is helping, but I'm sure it's a good bit, especially between him and Vladdy. And we'll quickly throw this up here, the unbelievable sliding play by Matt Chapman there as he made a nice play there just to put a spring into or a flower on the game and end it up. But any final thoughts on the game? It was a pretty good one, pretty exciting, and again, we're just ramping up towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm glad to see some things that we'll see come March 30th. And we're starting to get there. We're getting close, and you can tell by the amount of reps that the pitchers are getting and the amount of reps that the hitters are getting. So we're almost there. Stick with us for the next week, and we got you covered for everything that you need to know throughout the regular season and hopefully a long playoff run as well.
Yeah, hopefully, and make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for the support, and we'll see you in tomorrow's stream or video.
Thanks.